Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Board of Directors meeting for the Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation. It is December 14th, 2023, and it is now 9 a.m. I would like first to ask Tesla if you could please take a roll.
Chair Jerry Mackler, Vice Chair Carol Ryman, and Directors Sean Sasaki, Vicky Don Mende, Chris Salavera, Scott Glenn, and designee Mary Alice Evans.
Great. So we do have a quorum today. I would like to ask the directors who are attending today's meeting remotely, please let us know if there is anyone else present with you today.
I'm by myself, Gary. Thank you.
Same here. No one's with me.
John?
Same for me. No one else with me.
Okay. John?
Yep, no one's ever with me either.
Okay, thank you all. Before we get started, I do want to let the public know that we will be taking public testimony throughout the meeting as we work through each of the agenda items. And we do have ground rules for that. So I would like to ask L1, our executive assistant, to please brief us on the rules. And Del.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone wishing to present oral testimony should indicate so to the chair. Oral testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the discretion of the chair. Your testimony must be related to an item on the board agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. After 3 minutes, I will call time, after which you will have 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. For anyone wishing to submit written testimony, instructions for doing so are on the front page of the agenda under the section titled Public Testimony.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to go on to the next item on our agenda, which is item 2A. This is the approval of regular meeting minutes from the November 9th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, any changes to the minutes? Board members? Okay, if not, call for the question. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We got a late aye to approve. Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as submitted. That's up for that. And for the executive session meeting minutes, are we going to take that up today, or we'll take that into an executive session? Okay, so we'll hold off on that. Going to section 3 of today's meeting agenda. Section item A is to approve for qualified allocation plan for the low-income housing tax credit program. We have finance manager in Hawaii. So David, if you'd like to present.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. David Oy, Finance Manager for HHFDC. The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit, or LIHTC program, was created by the Tax Reform Act of 1986. It was created to encourage the construction or rehabilitation of low-income rental units. All regulations governing the program are contained in Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code. And the program provides federal tax credits to qualified project owners who maintain all or a portion of a project's units for low-income individuals and families. In 2012, the state of Hawaii created a state LIHTC program under HRS Section 235-110.8, which is equal to 50% of the federal credits to a project. HHFDC is the designated agency responsible for the administration of the federal and state LIHTC programs. IRS Section 42 requires that each state housing agency allocate the LIHTCs in accordance with a qualified allocation plan, or QAP. QAP establishes criteria to allocate tax credits to projects which best meet the housing needs of the state and preferences required by section 42. Procedures to monitor projects for compliance with the provisions of the LIHTC program are also required in the QAP, established through the QAP. In accordance with IRC section 42, the QAP must go through a public hearing. The proposed QAP for HHFDC in the state of Hawaii was provided at the August 10th, 2023 HHFDC Board of Directors meeting. The proposed QAP with changes from the current version was presented and a public hearing was authorized to accept public comment. The notice of public hearing was subsequently published on September 10th, 2023. And the public hearing was conducted on October 2nd, 2023. Among the substantive changes are: one, to the selection criteria. Changes were made to the penalties for applicants who provide non-compliant or falsified application submissions. This was changed from 6 months from the rejection date to 12 months. It also requires applicants to provide a current vendor compliance certificate in addition to other required documentation. And to clarify that the requirements for all of these items apply to both 9% and 4% LIHTC applications. In terms of project readiness, a line was added to add SMA approval or amendment approval to the minimum threshold discretionary approvals. For debt service ratio, projects are now required to show positive net operating income throughout the entire affordability of the project, and not just the 50-year pro forma, which was in the previous application. The annual reserve replacement for a project must now be forecast with an annual inflation rate of 3%, in addition to the previous draft of only $300 a year. There is also a new limit on the developer fee if the developer or applicant does not waive their qualified contract. The new provision states that if the qualified contract is not waived, the maximum developer fee will be 5% of total development costs or $250,000, whichever one is less. In terms of the criteria point system, we have made a renewed emphasis on the feasibility of the projects in our evaluations. Previously, feasibility was a total of 22 points in the QAP. With our renewed emphasis on feasibility, this is now 36 points across 3 subcategories. The first category is reasonableness of development costs, which is a maximum of 16 points. Readiness to proceed, a maximum of 16 points. And tenant services and amenities, which is total maximum of 4 points. The ratio of developer fee as a percentage of the project costs. This score was lowered from a maximum of 7 points to a maximum of 3 points. The purpose of this was to normalize the effect of a large project with a high development cost, obtaining a maximum score or a calculated lower percentage, but still yielding a high fee for the project. Staff also decided to lower project-based rental assistance score for first-time subsidies. This scoring goes from a maximum of 7 points to 4 points. The reason for this was a duplicative scoring from criteria 8 in the QAP, which is government support. Criteria 8 provides points in the QAP for the same thing, so this was duplicative scoring. For state and local government support points, the increase was made from 6 to 7 total points. This is to encourage the development on lower cost government-owned land to focus the use of resources on developing instead of simply acquisition. This adds to the likelihood as well that the affordability will remain in place for an extended period of time beyond the affordability period. For developer experience scoring, the maximum score was lowered from 7 points to 6 points. Per analysis by staff from the past round, this would not have had any impact on the rankings or the scoring or the results of this funding round. Also added an additional detail to the description of the development team definition and the scope of evaluation of this criteria. Also increased from 2 to 3 points was the preference towards larger units in the development. This would increase the number of residents that the project could assist, and with a preference more towards large families. For special needs housing, special housing needs, we amended the definition of special housing needs to align with HUD's definition of the target population. For the participation of a nonprofit, all but one applicant from the previous year's round had a nonprofit partner. So we basically reduced this scoring as well. In terms of being located in a qualified census tract, we lowered the score from 2 to 1 maximum points. Most projects that we receive for application are located in a qualified census tract or a DDA area. And these definitions will change annually as well. So this could affect the project even post-award. And the waiver of the qualified contract, the maximum score in previous versions of the QAP was 20, and we did lower this to 14. However, this analysis that we did for the past 2 funding rounds showed that this would have had no impact on the scoring, the rankings, or the awards. This is meant to be a deterrent from the qualified contract. The goal in the scoring was not simply add or take away points, but the goal thing. You have to trade points. If you keep adding points, then you're not really shifting the emphasis from one area to another. But by moving points off of this item, which is very important, we did not see any impact or any simply ramifications negative. The changes for the proposed QAP from the September board meeting, so the draft you received in September, I wanted to highlight those. So we added back the 1 point that was removed from special needs housing based on feedback from the public testimony. Although we feel that more can be done in this realm to assist this tremendously needed population, every point to assist counts, but this area will be evaluated further revisions. We reverted back to the original scoring structure for developer fees and discarded the changes from the draft. We want to encourage the most units constructed the quickest. Felt that the change to the developer fee scoring that was presented would negatively impact that. Developers told us their feedback, and their development partner stated that their use of the fee is to prepare their projects for the minimum threshold requirements for our funding in future rounds. This cost can run into the millions, so we feel that these funds do get reinvested back into future projects that are needed to provide projects that are feasible and ready to go at the time of application. While the readiness, the minimum threshold requirement of SMA was added, as I previously stated. We removed the clause regarding other terms at staff's discretion for minimum threshold. We feel that the score for readiness will be done during scoring, but we do not want to make those items a minimum threshold item for the recording applications. All the proposed amendments are attached as Exhibit B, and a summary of testimony received, both written and a list of oral testimony listed at Exhibit C and D. Schedule for the 2024 funding round subsequent to this would be that applications would be released this week. It'll be due February 16th, 2024. And board recommendations for award will be presented to the board in from June to August of 2024. We want to note that in 2025, the QAP will be reevaluated and amended again. This is a 9 to 10 month process. We'll begin as soon as possible. Staff intends to form a subcommittee of various stakeholders from all areas of affordable housing development to contribute to the evaluation and revision process. This will cause an example. We will commit to an accelerated timeline to be presented to the board for their approval, which will include committee members list and a schedule for evaluation. Therefore, staff recommends the board of directors approve the 2024 QAP and authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action.
Thank you. I'd like to get a motion on the floor, so at this time I would like to ask, is there a motion to approve the 2024 QAP? So, we have a second. So,
Gary,
hang on, at this time, Director Bradshaw, I'm going to open up the public testimony, and then I will then ask.
okay, thank you.
We'll ask directors if they have any questions or comments thereafter. What I would like to do now is ask if there's anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item. If you given the ground rules, so if there's anyone here present or anyone who'd like to do so remotely, this is your opportunity. So hearing none, I do want to acknowledge that there has been some testimony that we did receive. Came in yesterday. We want to acknowledge that we did receive a very large volume of testimony for this item, which we really do appreciate. Because I think it does recognize that there are many different stakeholders, not only the development community, but also the nonprofit community, nonprofit service providers, individuals, elected officials. It really was good to see a very well-rounded response to the proposed amendments that were put out previously. So I guess at this time, what I would like to do is open it up for any comments or questions. Director Bradshaw, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And I want to thank the staff for all the hard work that they've put into the QAP. A really good job. I do want to mention, I think it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the QAP can be approved by the February board meeting. So I saw and had a chance to review the housing chair, Senator Stanley Chang's testimony regarding the QAP. And I think it's important that we work with him, as he's one of the important stakeholders with the HHFDC during the legislative session. So I think my recommendation would be if we could postpone approving the QAP until the January HHFDC meeting, so we can try to work to adopt some of the changes and recommendations from the senator. I think that would be good, and open it up for conversation from there, Gary.
Thank you, Jason. Discussion on the different
If I may,
Sure.
I think I understand the need to make sure that we have all the stakeholder input as part of the whole process. I'm a little apprehensive of delaying the approval of the QAP. I know that there's some proposed changes in there, but I'm trying to figure out what the happy medium is in terms of how we can proceed forward in order to make sure that, I think the connection between the board as well as the staff's work in terms of kind of taking in all of the recommendations that are coming in from the general counsel of industry. I'll leave it up to the rest of the board, but I know this is something that comes up pretty much after discussion on how we do the qualification and the criteria for the QAP. So I'm trying to figure out a process so that we can kind of collect all of these and some of the recommendations for certain stakeholders that have an extreme amount of stake in the process as well.
I would agree, Director. There are a lot of ideas and that came up through testimony that I think could use additional vetting and discussion, analysis. Working with this QAP, it's kind of tricky in places, because if you do something, you may cause some unintended consequences that you contemplated. After the amendments that the original public hearing just recently, we received testimony raising the concept of ability versus some other long-term affordability criteria that we currently have reflected by the QAP, and whether or not we should be looking at something that extends beyond what we currently have. I welcome the proposal. I welcome the idea. But I think it's always worth looking at how we do things best as we can and carry out the mission of HHFDC as effectively as we can through the QAP. So this was an issue that came up really recently. I think I need to hear from staff about the schedule that we're working under right now. And if you could maybe, I don't know, Dean or David, if you could speak to them.
Or Chair, just a few comments. We certainly do take the senator's comments very seriously, and we are going to work with him to address his concerns. As far as the current or proposed QAP, it is geared towards producing as many units as we can as quickly as possible to address our shortfall before. So that is the focus of the QAP. So if we, I do state in chair, if we start to change the criteria, it may have unintended consequence, or it may have intended consequences. But it will change the focus of the QAP, producing as many units as we can as quickly as possible. And I think that's showing our production pipeline. Right now, we have 6,500 units planned to be produced, which have been approved by the board in the next 5 years, a substantial number of units. That's because the focus is on producing as many units as we can as quickly as possible. We are open to discussion about amendments to the QAP. This is just a 1-year QAP. In the past, it has been a 2-year QAP. So the process to revise this QAP that's proposed is going to start in the spring. We will transfer to our working group meetings where you have a seat at the table with developers, other stakeholders to discuss his proposed amendments. And we're also going to be hiring a consultant, nationwide experience, helping other states with their QAP. So we'll have that experience to help us also. With respect to the term of affordability, I will note that the absolute minimum term for projects which are awarded LIHTC is 30 years. And in most cases, it's more like 60 because they're using the most bonus. 60 years is quite a long term of affordability. Even when those projects term out, those units are still there. They're built. So that's why we're maximizing production of housing units. And those units become naturally occurring affordable housing. They're not even market rate units in most cases. They're still being optimized 80% AMI units. So they still contribute to affordable housing even when they term out. With respect to postponing this QAP, if we were to postpone adoption of the QAP, staff would have to take it back for vetting. That would take at least a month. If there were changes, we'd have to take it back to the board for the board to approve it, take it back to public hearing, and then to the board to adopt the QAP. So you're looking at least a 3 or 4 month delay. So we would prefer that this QAP be adopted, and we will start the revision process for next year in the spring.
So is the QAP in front of us right now? Is it a pass fail vote? There's no opportunity for I'm taking a look at one particular criteria. I'm just non-substantive events can be made by the board. If there are a major change which the board feels should go back to public hearing, at that point, yes, we would have to take it back to public hearing. So if you want to change points around, I think in most cases that could be allowed. Okay.
I want to also mention, thank you, Director. The minimum affordability for our QAP for LIHTC is actually 45 years. That's our minimum requirement. So we require 15 years beyond the IRC 42 requirement. And I want to echo what my Executive Director stated. We do consider all testimony and we look very carefully at what's proposed. But we want to make sure we're aligning with the goals of the corporation. Executive Director stated as building the most number of units as quickly as possible for the state. Again, we are going to make changes to our process to amend next year's QAP. As I mentioned, it's a 9 to 10 month process, as it should be. We'll provide a larger subcommittee for evaluation. Subcommittees have been formed in the past, but I do not think they've been quite as broad as what the board feels would be necessary. So we commit to that as well, to have all stakeholders at the table. And it would be a very transparent process to the board in terms of our timeline, our schedule. We're not trying to disregard anything in terms of testimony, it was all read, it was all considered. But we just don't want to, we feel that the changes to this QAP were fairly minimal impact for a one-year QAP, and we do not want to push back the funding round at all either. Push back the funding round, that affects, it's very difficult to get back on schedule. The only way you can get back on schedule is if you were to come into not amending the QAP for any given, which I think would be more risky. As an example, if I apologize if I'm not being clear. So if we push back the adoption and we take the 3 plus months to amend the QAP and release it, we have to give developers enough time to pivot their projects necessary to meet these requirements, which means the due date and the closing date would be pushed back, which pushes back the awards, which pushes back the cycle again. Again, as Director Salaria has stated, it's a balance. It has to be equal input and equal importance on both the stakeholder input as well as the board's goals. However, I feel like if we were to possibly miss a year of evaluating the QAP, because of this, to get back on a regular funding schedule, I think that would be service as well to what we're trying to accomplish. But we do admit the process to be improved and will be done better with our new evaluation in the spring.
Chair Mackler,
Yes, Director Bradshaw.
can we, just to get some clarity, can we suggest an amendment to the QAP at today's hearing? Would that cause delays?
A substantive amendment, Director, would require us to revise the draft, bring it back to the board for approval, and request further authorization for a public hearing and take it back to public hearing again. So there would inherently be a delay if we were to do any substantive changes at this time.
If I want to make the affordability provision in perpetuity,
And that would be a substantive amendment, and we would need significant time to do research on that in order to present something to the board to see if that's something we want to bring to the board as an option.
I'd like to suggest that as an option for the board to consider.
Taking something that is substantive like that
Yeah,
without public hearing would be taking a voice away essentially from other stakeholders.
Correct. Everybody would need.
I did watch the public hearing for this QAP, and there were a number of individuals who testified that in very thoughtful testimony. In many cases, opposition to the amendment bids. And so if we don't have that public hearing, we're depriving the stakeholders some of this of that opportunity to weigh in, essentially.
That's correct, Chair. And Section 42 requires by law that we have a public hearing for substantive changes. So it would not be something we could forego.
Any other discussion or comments? Boardman? So I think what I'm going to do on this one is talk about the question. So the motion on the floor is to approve the QAP as it's presented today for 1 year of QAP. As David has reviewed with us, without any further substantive changes. You'd like to?
Sure, just one moment.
Hold off.
So, the discussion around, establishing a process so that, that these inputs that are coming in, can that be made as part of the motion? No.
I don't think it needs to be, and I actually have something I want to add after the motion.
Okay, that's fine.
In that regard.
So when I call your name, please say aye if you're in favor of. Nay if you're against. So Chair Gary Mackler.
Aye.
Vice Chair Carol Ryman. Director Sean Sasaki.
Aye.
Director Jason Bradshaw.
I vote no.
Director Jay Kimura. Director Don Mindy.
Aye.
Director Luis Talavera.
Aye.
Director Scott Glenn.
Aye.
Mary Alice.
Aye.
Before we go on to the next agenda item related to the QAP, I'm sorry, thank you. Member carries. Moving to 2024. QAP. Before we move on to the next agenda item, I do want to take a moment of personal privilege to establish a permitted interaction group. This is a fancy word for subcommittee. And I have reached out to several board members. The purpose of the permitted interaction group is to engage board members to work on the QAP for the 2025 year and to work through the testimony that we've received to date and also any future testimony that we do receive to really broaden understanding amongst the board of the QAP and all of its moving parts and all of the issues that tended to each of the criteria. I think it's really important for us to have that interaction. I'd like to do this with the staff's assistance. Also ask to consider bringing an outside consultant who is knowledgeable with qualified allocation plans who can also assist us and guide us and hopefully help us to understand the long range impacts of the things that we might change to the QAP. So I have asked Director Glenn and Director Ryman and Director Sasaki and myself to work on the permitted interaction group, and hopefully you're all willing to do so. This will give us more ongoing dialogue to go forward. We can consider all of the substantive issues that come. Thank you.
Just by in terms of process now, this motion would be put on the next agenda to formally establish.
I don't believe we need a motion to. And so effectively formed. We're in the record now. So
Chair, can I just say, I think that's a great idea. I think, given the long time discussion that the company, I'd like to get a better understanding of what does, affordability in particular. From that standpoint, understanding, what are the benefits? Are there benefits on all those things? But in order for us to really kind of push this initiative forward, that would be something that I would like to get out of it.
and also, the permitted interaction group will give briefings and progress reports to the full board. So it's not that we'll do it in a vacuum outside of the full board's purview. And so I think that'll bring us all hopefully to a place where we can really hash out the issues.
So
Sure.
for clarity and process going forward. So this meeting today established the committee. And at a subsequent meeting, the may bring the findings and recommendations, and then other findings.
Thanks, everyone. Let's go on to item 3B of today's agenda. This is to approve the proposed amendments to and compilation of chapter 15-307 entitled State Assisted Land and Housing Development Program, Hawaii Administrative Rule, to amend fees and make technical non-substantive corrections. Oh, hello.
Good morning, everybody. Cynthia Ross, housing planner for HHFDC. This request is for you to amendment of chapter 307, State Assisted Land and Housing Development Program, Hawaii Administrative Rules, to amend fees and make technical non-substantive corrections. The facts are chapter 15, 7, Administrative Rules governs most of HHFDC development programs. Expedited approvals process under section 201H-38, dwelling unit revolving fund loans, and the repurchase or repair of dwelling units having substantial construction defects. Proposed amendments to this chapter merely to update the fee schedule, while also addressing the other necessary farming, housekeeping, and technical amendments for the purposes of clarity and consistency. So the fee schedule has not been updated since 2010. HHFDC needs to cover service costs pertaining to affordability compliance for projects that use DERF interim loans or receive 201H exceptions. Chart in the 4 action shows 4 application fees that will increase from $2,000 to $5,000. We also, the other amendments we made were, for instance, we updated the definitions. The ones we removed are in 15308, which is state assisted sales and lease program. It used to be in one chapter, but it was separated and it went into effect last December. So we're recommending that the board approve our proposed amendments and compilation, which are subject to approval to form by HHFDC's Deputy Attorney General and approved by the governor, to authorize the executive director or his designee to conduct a public hearing, and finally to authorize the executive director to transmit the proposed amendments to the governor for approval, provided there are no substantive amendments made.
Second. Jake, thank you. Is there anyone in the public to give testimony on this item? Being done, are there some board members?
I do have one. Yeah, you know, every admin role that goes to the governor for approval has to go through the Department of Budget and Finance, where I have to like, well, can I recuse myself from this particular role? That's short. Yeah, exactly. If there's just a subsequent review process that goes through the NF.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks. Next, we'll go on to item 3C of the agenda. This is to include the execution of the ground lease with the Hawaii Montessori Inc. for the Money multi-purpose project located in Manuakona, Hawaii, TMK number 37-4-016-060. Is there a motion?
Right. Technical difficulties, and you might have to restart.
Oh, okay. We're gonna go ahead and take a 5-minute recess. Sorry, Chris.
That's online. To shut down and the computer. You guys could log back on in a few minutes.
okay, sounds good.
So we are back in session on this today's meeting. I'm going to go ahead and read the next agenda item. This is item 3C, which is to approve the execution of a ground lease with Hawaii Montessori Inc. for the Lailani multipurpose project located in Kailua Kona, Hawaii. TMK number 37-4-017-060. Is there a motion to approve? We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Is there anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, I'll turn it over to Chris Footer.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of the board. The Lailani multipurpose project is an approximately 4,500 square foot building situated on a roughly half-acre site located adjacent to the Lailani Apartments affordable rental housing project in the Alakehe residential community of Kailua Kona. The property was built in 1992. It's a single-story wood frame daycare preschool building. In 2019, HHFDC sold a 75-year leasehold interest in the apartment complex to a joint venture of Standard Communities and Stanford Car Development. And we withheld this project from the sale due to the tenant's long-standing substantial lease rent arrearage with HHFDC, as I'll describe. In 1992, our predecessor agency entered into a 15-year ground lease with the predecessor to Hawaii Montessori. That ground lease ran through 2007. Hawaii Montessori is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that operates a school serving children ages from 18 months to 6 years. At the top of page 2 of the for action, you see the rent schedule. The total balance owed to us is about $265,000. That includes late fees. The lease expired in 2007, and Hawaii Montessori has been in holdover of the lease ever since. I should note that this lease rent arrearage was run up the very early years of the school's operation. And for the past, 15, 20 years, they've been current on their rent payments. Over the years, Hawaii Montessori has made substantial leasehold improvements to the project. Those described for the property needs further improvements that are expected to cost over $110,000. That information is included in Exhibit C. The big ticket items are replacement of the roof and air conditioning installation and electrical upgrades. We've met with the school staff several times over the past few years for the property. I'll note that our cost basis in the project is about $485,000, been fully depreciated. And this agency has received a total of over $800,000 in lease rents as of last month. Hawaii Montessori has requested to enter into a new ground lease with HHFDC on these terms, 30-year ground lease at $1 per year. Basically a waiver of the late fees from their current debt. And they would use the first 15 years of the lease term to pay back the rent arrearage, the monthly installments, with no penalties for prepayment. So that equates to payment to HHFDC of $1,415 a month for 15 years. And basically staff recommends that we accept school's proposal. Again, they're nonprofit. While we typically ask for a ground lease rent of about $11,000 a year for an affordable rental housing complex. This is a much smaller operation, and they do provide a valuable service to the community. I believe that online we have Chrissy Bogdanovich, who's the school's board president, Steve Pine, who's a member of the board, and Eva Lee, who's their administrative director. And if it's okay with you, Chair, Chrissy would like to make a very brief presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Chrissy, if you could share your screen, hopefully you're on.
Hi, good morning. Thank you guys for hearing our proposal this morning. We are a new board. We inherited this situation after former boards have left, and we really would love to kind of clear this up so that we can move forward as a school. But the Hawaii Montessori School here in Kailua Kona has 4 classrooms. We have 2 toddler programs and we have 2 primary classrooms. And we have a really dedicated staff. We try as hard as possible to do Montessori type training. And all of our board members, I am the president, Steve is our treasurer, and he is also the head of a kind of large community medical dental program here, so he had to step out. And we are all either former parents or current parents of students who attend here, and we're all volunteer based. Our goal is to serve our community and students and staff by providing a nurturing and enriching educational environment in the area that is accessible to the families that need it the most. We're deeply committed to this mission, and we're grateful for the support we received from HHFDC to move this forward. Our community here in Kona, we have one of the most diverse counties in the nation, and our student body is made up of 79% full paying, 18% are scholarship, and 3% are staff benefits. And all of our parents are young, full-time working professionals in our community who really truly need this program. And the critical core to our school is our school environment, a quality classroom for our students to thrive in, our kids to thrive in is the most important priority for us. So as you can see here from our little pictures, these pictures are students of board members who attend. And you can see that they work on the floor, they bring out their activities to mats, and they'll be found scattered around the classroom, working either on their own or with each other. And in our primary care, we have guided and independent programs for the kids. But the most important part is our structural integrity and modernization of the building. And many of these repairs are well past due, and we're all in this, kind of together, finding competent and cost-effective contractors. And we've submitted estimates, and we've spent the last year working on really honing in what our facility improvements are. We have interior and exterior improvements that need to be made, including a new roof, electrical upgrades, fans, AC for classrooms. There's been some water damage, and you can see here that our total cost is about $120,000 for repair. But with the support of HHFDC and our new lease, this is something that the school will be able to take on and be able to do, and we're committed to this. Our board and our staff is committed to be doing this in the next couple of years, get all this done. So we really hope that you guys will vote this through, because we really truly believe that our partnership will directly influence the lives of our students and reinforce our mission of promoting inclusivity and cultural diversity here in Kona. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Chrissy. Yeah, Chair, I just want to say I inherited this problem in around 2015. And the board's just been going through a number of changes over the years. So I'm really, we're appreciative that, you know, we're able to kind of come together, figure this out. The rent that's being proposed, it's only going to allow the school to break even. You can imagine they suffered losses in recent years due to COVID. The building's, it's fully paid for. We've made our money on it. The school would like to go ahead and make the improvements and know that they've got the security of a 30-year lease.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation as well. Are there any questions, board members? Not all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Are there any
Aye.
opposed? Well, none opposed, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is 3D on the agenda. And this is to authorize an application for exemptions from statutes, ordinances, and rules pursuant to section 201H-38 or by statutes, and approve one, the certification of High Ridge Costa Development Company LLC or successor entity approved by the executive director as an eligible developer pursuant to section 15-3-24 Hawaii Administrative Rules. 2, project proposal. And 3, execution of development documents for approved exemptions for the Pahoa Ridge Rental and Wholesale Project located in Honolulu, Oahu. Number 1-7-028-025. Is there a motion to approve? Second? Second. Is there anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? I do want to recognize that we did receive some written testimony prior to today's meeting. Oh, is there some?
Christopher?
Yes, aloha chair and board members, Chris Delaney with Pacific Resource Partnership. Would like to provide some testimony on this agenda item, if possible.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So Pacific Resource Partnership represents the Carpenters Union and approximately 240 contractors in the state of Hawaii. And we are in strong support of this project. HHFDC commissioned the Hawaii Housing Planning Study in 2019, which found that the state will need about 50,000 more housing units between 2020 and 2025. Pahoa Ridge will provide the state with much needed housing consisting of approximately 211 units for residents. It will also provide Hawaii's construction workers with the opportunity to earn a living wage with benefits to keep up with Hawaii's high cost of living. So we're in very strong support. You have a great development team, High Ridge Costa Development Company, very good. I've been to a number of community meetings. They're very engaging and collaborative, listening and working with the community to provide a very good project. So I respectfully request your favorable decision on this project, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Great testimony. I believe we do have someone else wanting remotely that would like to give testimony. Patty.
Yes, Good morning, Chair and Board Member. My name is Patty, and I want to say I truly support affordable workforce housing that conform to the neighborhood without causing any dangerous condition for pedestrians or overburdening our surrounding areas. The small parcel on Old Wildlife Road is a terrible fit for a large 30-story high-rise building with a swimming pool. There are valid concerns such as pedestrian safety, dangerous traffic condition of having more cars having to cross over multiple freeway exits and on-ramp by the Humane Society, Kuhil Elementary School must not be ignored. There may also be some soil stability and flood control issues there as it sits on the bank of H1 westbound lane and the Manor Stream. These red flags are all pointed out by everybody, including in the various state and city department reports. In the current design with these fancy amenities, 200 plus parking stalls, diamond head views, it is clearly marked for a luxury condo targeted for the rich. Look at this scenario 3, it's a for sale option with only 7 units at 80% AMI and for only a 10-year period. It is not for working families as it is presented to be. Affordable housing is a golden buzzword right now. Please don't fall for these fake plans. Let's work together to make sure proposed developments are truly affordable ones without destroying the communities. Please don't make the same mistake as Kuile Place. Don't sell us out to the developers who are only interested in making hundreds of millions of dollars. We urge you to reject this application for the exemption in its present form, particularly the 100 feet height variance, and strike out scenario 2 and 3, which are not affordable. Instead, please require High Ridge Coster to find another larger location, perhaps along the rail line, or redesign the building for only scenario 1 into a scaled down building, 10-story high, for a simple functional workforce housing with more bike parking than cars, no fancy amenities, a simple building that we will support. And I do want to say, I really do want more affordable housing, but this is a wrong development plan in the wrong place that cause a lot of problem. So I urge you to please reject this plan and hold them accountable. Don't give them a blank exemption to do everything. Thank you for listening. Aloha and mahalo.
We also have Arlene Velasco that wants to give testimony. If you'd like to go ahead and provide your testimony.
Yes, I would. Thank you. I'm Arlene Velasco, and I am associated with the Surfrider Foundation and with the Diamond Head Neighborhood Board, number 5. My testimony today, I don't have authorization from either organization to express the views of either organization, but it's my own personal observation. I've been attending very many meetings this week, both with the Army Corps of Engineers just 2 nights ago on their proposal to build fortifications around Waikiki. And one of the huge fortifications they propose is right along where this property for this development is. It's very disturbing to me that all these considerations of sea level rise, flooding, sewage system, infrastructure is not being addressed in this huge development. And what I'd like to point out, I live in the neighborhood. I travel that road. I have seen the backup of traffic as is now. And to allow a huge complex such as this is just appalling to me. As a citizen of this lovely city that we live in, I enjoy the ocean, I enjoy the weather, the running, and to see it being, in my opinion, destroyed is very disturbing. As Patty said, I agree, we need affordable housing. But where can we, perhaps we can look into existing buildings that are fairly unoccupied and be creative with all the empty, dark rooms that I see as I travel the evening sky in Honolulu. You know, there are other options. This is a horrible site for a huge building like this. I'd like to ask you all to travel on that road at 7:50 in the morning. And you tell me that it can take more traffic and that this Army Corps of Engineer proposal wouldn't greatly affect it. And that's, I'd like you all to consider the impact of these projects on the community. Thank you.
Else wishing to give testimony?
Members of the board and chair, I'd like to testify.
Yeah, David, please go ahead.
Yes. I submitted a written testimony. It should be in your record documents. I just wanted to echo the concerns of the previous two testifiers that the project really needs more evaluation. Many of the residents who attended the town halls were not given really sufficient time to get responses and answers to their questions. It really needs a reevaluation with the respective agencies and to get a proper fit of a development on such a small parcel of land. Many of the residents are not opposing affordable housing. We would welcome it, but it has to be the right fit. And right now, it will not fit for the size of that development as proposed with the maximum development. So I encourage you to consider the input that the various communities that surround the property on the question, and listen to the community before you take your action on the project. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, I guess I'd like to turn over to Albert to present the for action.
Sorry, did we make a motion? Okay.
We got one in on this one.
I think before Albert starts, I just want to introduce we have a new development branch chief, Randy Chu. Randy, as you know, was previously our development section chief, and he has agreed to step up and now lead the development branch.
Thank you, Randy. Congratulations. Yeah,
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. My name is Albert Palmer. I'm a housing development specialist here in the development branch. This for action is to authorize this application by High-Ridge Costa Development Company, LLC, or other successor entity approved by the executive director as an eligible developer, and their application for 201H exemptions for this Pahoa Ridge project. This is a new construction project near UH Manoa, which will have 211 units and up to 281 parking stalls. High-Ridge Costa is the developer with Foreman Partners as co-developer. There are 3 scenarios presented for the development of the project. Scenario 1 would be rental with all units except managers' units, serving households earning up to 60% of the area median income, or AMI, utilizing our low-income housing tax credit financing. Scenario 2 would be a rental project with, except for managers' units, all the units would be for households earning up to 100% of the AMI. In this case, they would use a 501c3 bond financing structure and our rental housing revolving fund. In the third scenario, the project would be a for-sale project with at least 60% of the units, serving households earning up to 140% AMI and 40% of the units at market rate, financed using conventional financing and a dwelling unit revolving fund. The developer will determine which scenario to pursue depending on the sources of financing that are available. All of the proposed financing sources for scenarios 1 and 2 are limited, not guaranteed. The order that the developed scenarios are presented in the for action is the order of the developer's preference. Approving this for action will not obligate HHFDC to provide any financing award for the project, and HHFDC makes no representations or warranties about the availability of any such financing. Items 3E through 3J on pages 4 and 5 show the proposed budget and sources of funds for each scenario. The budget in each scenario is similar, approximately $124 million. If the project receives financing awards in the next funding cycle, construction could be scheduled to start in December 2024 and to finish in March 2027. This schedule would be subject to change depending on financing awards. The site currently contains a 3-story apartment building, which will be demolished prior to construction. HHFDC published a notice of exemption determination from preparation of environmental assessment in accordance with administrative rules in the August 8th, 2023 edition of the environmental notice. The project is situated in the bottom corner of a neighborhood board district close to 3 other neighborhood boards, and the developer has attended meetings for the neighborhood board applicable to the project and also the nearby boards, and has held town hall meetings specifically for the project on May 16th, 2023 and August 30th, 2023. Comments received pertain primarily to traffic. The requested 201H exemptions from city and county of Honolulu items include exemptions from fees, park dedication requirements, density or allowable floor area ratio, maximum building area, yard setbacks, height limit, bicycle parking, and an exemption to allow the project to follow HHFDC's affordability requirements rather than the city's. The full list of exemptions is attached as Exhibit G. A summary of comments received from review agencies is listed in Exhibit H. Some of the comments are discussed in Section 3R on pages 8 through 11. Staff's recommendation is that the Board of Directors authorize the application for exemptions from statutes, ordinances, and rules pursuant to Section 201H38, Hawaii Revised Statutes, and approve the following: the developer or other successor entity approved by the Executive Director as an eligible developer pursuant to Section 15-307-24 HAR. Development of the project with the proposed exemptions from statutes, ordinances, and rules as recommended for approval herein pursuant to Section 201H38 HRS. Development of the project either as rental or for sale as described in this for action. Execution of development agreement and restrictions for such exemptions as required by the Executive Director. Authorize the Executive Director to take all necessary actions to effectuate the purposes of this for action. Subject to the following: addressing certain comments as noted here and above in Section 3R. Approval with or without modification by the Honolulu City Council pursuant to Section 201H38 HRS. Exemptions from Board of Water Supply items are subject to the approval of the Board of Water Supply. Execution of development agreement and restrictions within 6 months, unless otherwise extended at the sole discretion of the Executive Director. The development agreement will include deadlines for the commencement and completion of construction. Approval as to form of the applicable development documents and restrictions by the Department of the Attorney General, and execution by the Executive Director. Project shall not be sold, transferred, or otherwise used to satisfy the reserved housing or affordable housing requirement for any other project at any other location. Compliance with applicable laws, rules, regulations, and such other terms and conditions as may be required by the Executive Director. Staff would like to note that the City Council may make modifications to the project, including the exemptions for the affordability levels, and that no further action from the board will be required. And we do have representatives from the developer here with us today who are available to answer any questions about the projects.
Board members, have any questions for staff? Or developer representatives here today? Well, actually, I do have a question. Read the testimony that was provided for action and the comments from different agencies. Also from elected officials. Much as everybody supports more affordable housing, particularly under, I think, first or second scenario. As we've heard some today, and as indicated in the comments, traffic is clearly a huge concern for this project. I was wondering if We could have, Mr. Mahoney on. How about that? Speak to this, because I know you've been through a number of community meetings and if you could the board on attended those meetings. Can be done to address that.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mo Mohana, President, Howard Costa Development Company. Thank you for the opportunity. The reason we hold community meetings and attend neighborhood board meetings and reach out is we want to make sure we understand and listen to the concerns. As Albert mentioned, we've had numerous meetings and the main concern has been traffic. And we've taken several steps to mitigate those issues. First and foremost, I need to acknowledge the fact that that area is a congested area. There's a regional traffic issue in that area. According to the traffic study that we completed by Austin Tutsumi, indicates that in peak hours in the AM, this community will generate 64 trips, peak hour trips, which represents an increase of 45% to the existing traffic situation. The PM peak hours generates 6 trips, which is an impact of 3.1%. Additionally, ingress and egress out of the community allows only one way in, one way out, and prohibits anybody from being able to take the on-ramp onto H1, but circulates it around to divert traffic or create any hazardous situation at that point there. We and I have personally driven that area and stood there in the mornings. Definitely traffic going to H1 from both lanes to the right, the lane to the left, where the traffic would be exiting from the community. In the hours I've been there, and we have members from our team that live in the area and traffic, that lane is typically not as congested as the 2 lanes dropping in the freeway that we backed up. And that's where we're directing traffic to ensure those mitigation. So there are other mitigation measures that we're working with the traffic department to see what we can do as speed bumps, but those really are conditions that are not being generated by these projects. We do acknowledge that area does have congestion. That is a regional issue that needs to be addressed. And I know many members of the community, when we talked, have reached out to the respective agencies to address this for years and nothing has been done. We don't know that this community can shoulder it and make those regional changes. But the status of the traffic study clearly indicates that with all respect to the perception that is there, and one must respect that because we are living there. The statistics show otherwise as far as the traffic increase that this community will generate. Other comments as to flood and drainage, all of that has been reviewed and addressed. I would like to comment on the structure that we're doing, and that is our first and most important part of the production of affordable housing, which is our company's mission, and that's the 60% AMI. The way we've structured this, we will be applying for at least 2 rounds, and as you know, one round to build that's 2 years first. We will also apply for 2 rounds during those 2 years for the RHRF Tier 2 when it's appropriated in order to do the missing middle 80 to 100%, which we've also demonstrated in other projects. It's very badly needed. Those are the priorities, and no developer would actually tie up a piece of property or hold a piece of property for 2 years unless that's the intention. The concept that the pool is a amenity. We like to amenitize our communities. And if I look at the amenities that we have in this community, from a clubhouse to a fitness room, it's pretty much standard what we put on all our amenities, including the pool. If there's a concern that the pool is a step towards the for sale product, which is not our intention, and definitely the last resort, would be, unfortunately, to the residents that would potentially live there, remove the pool. That is a concern. We would even go as far, if it's the board's discretion, to even remove the option of the for sale, which is truly a last resort. And if it was a true option, it's a very tough option. But we understand the concerns. We're trying to be respectful of them. And trying to offer mitigating solutions to the perception that this really is intended to be for sale. Such an amenity as a pool gives that perception as much as it concerns me for our potential residents in the future that deserve to have similar amenities. We believe that affordable housing tax credit projects should have similar amenities ongoing other communities. We can
remove that. If there is a challenge to the issue of the for sale, remove that option and stick with the first two options, which is what is the focus of high ridge cost of development. With me today, I would also like to introduce our joint venture partners, Chris Newkirk with Forum Partners, and our nonprofit partner, Mr. Scott Settle with the Affordable Housing Economic Development Foundation, sitting to the right, that are also available for any questions. So.
Like it's pick up this comments on scenario 3. You know, the for sale environment is very dynamic and very sensitive to interest rate changes. And you're probably going to see more projects like this project here, which has to target a higher AMI range or to on each for sale project that we're going to move forward. And just to give an example, you know, maybe about a year ago, rates were much lower. So when a developer comes to us and proposes a certain AMI range, they require it to place it. When rates were lower, just maybe a year or so ago, we would have told them you have to target 5.5% or 100% by rental. So for one bedroom unit, people they set that price at right around $450,000, no higher than that. Now with the rates being higher, that same unit, we tell them you have to target it at 7% rate. That would be $385,000. And the typical cost for a high rise is between one unit is $500,000 to $600,000. You can see this for actually that for this project is $580,000. So even when rates were lower, you know, the market units were subsidizing the affordable units, and at 5.5%, that could possibly work out. But now, if you're looking at a second price at $385,000 for 100% by one rental unit, the market units couldn't subsidize that amount. It just wouldn't work for the developer. So they have no choice but to go up at AMI. So that 100% AMI unit has to be at 120% AMI. So we're going to see more projects like this coming in forward. If the rates stay high, developers have no choice but to step up in AMI to make their projects pencil. Not the fault of the developer, it's just the macro economic interest rate environment that we're in.
Scenario 3, would that be why you're seeking exemption from? For sale guidelines to sale units. Yeah, speak to that. I know you because we're under HHFDC.
So that is correct. I mean, first of all, the explanation by the executive director is spot on. The interest rate environment is affecting not only for sale, but affecting the missing middle, affecting the LIHTC, and there's significant changes, as the board has probably seen, with projects coming back due to the effect of construction. Interest rate increases and now insurance increases. We've seen as much as a reduction of 50% reduction in production overall, multifamily, single family, as well as LIHTC development across the nation. The concern here is a bigger picture than just the issue of 120 or the interest rate. The low-income housing tax credit program under HHFDC, as we know, is now significantly oversubscribed. We would all love to see a big project that has been approved to go under the 60% AMI restriction. The board would like to see it, the community would like to see it, and we would like to see it. That is the focus of our business model. However, in working over the last 7-8 years, we have seen the oversubscription of projects that have been submitted. We're reaching oversubscription of 4 to 1, 5 to 1, 4 or 5 submitted, 1 being received. Alternatives have been asked of the developers. Can you come up with alternatives? One of the alternatives that the board has and the legislature has put in is the concept of the RHRF Tier 2 to encourage production of rental housing at the missing middle, 80% to 100%, without tapping to private activity that are oversubscribed and scarce. The other options were also said, okay, with the availability of turf money and looking at the for sale. What High Ridge Cost is trying to do is trying to work with the community, with the state, with the legislature and the board by coming and saying we're trying not to stay narrow in the request for production, but trying to have options and push ourselves to find other solutions to provide much needed housing. Is the 60% needed? I don't even need to discuss the demand there. Is the 80 to 100% needed? We've discovered that most analysts didn't even have the data available, and when they compiled the data for recent projects, it's so overwhelming, it's incomprehensible. And at the same time, we're also finding no product available at any affordable range for local Hawaii residents that are living here, working here, have the credit that they can qualify for. So all High Ridge Council is trying to do is actually listen to the community at large. Like I said, we respect the direct community and the neighborhood, but the community at large is saying, provide us with alternative financing solutions. Provide us with the availability that we've approved a project and it's oversubscribed for LIHTC funding. What's your next execution? If the RHRF Tier 2 is not allocated, what's your next execution? We'd love to come to you with one solution, but we've been asked to provide us with other solutions. And that's why we sat down, raked our brains and tried to say, what can we do and what we can present? If it is something that the board or the community feels they want to eliminate options, we are respectful. The reason we are here today is because we listened and we are trying to provide options. And those are the best that we can come up at this time. All of them having restrictions, honestly. None of them open. All of them constrain the ability of the developer on what they can do. Rent restriction on amounts and dependency on RHRF and federal and tax credits. Missing middle and restriction of rents and cost of interest and construction, and now insurance, which is really wreaking havoc in our industry, again puts the burden on the RHRF Tier 2. If we were to come and say missing middle, limit it all to 80%, it would render the project infeasible and the ask infeasible. 501c3 projects today are feasible in Oahu specifically because of the RHRF Tier 2. They are feasible and viable projects, and it's a feasible and viable solution. And hopefully we'll have our first groundbreaking on the first one in that direction. The for sale is another option that is being presented here. That's the intent. It is not the primary intent. We are imposing on ourselves to say for the first 2 years, simply apply for the rental restrictions. And only then, hopefully interest rates don't continue to escalate. Then we have a hope even considering the for sale option.
Thank you. Anyone else? Board members? Questions? Jim?
Thanks for the explanation. Could you talk a little bit about the traffic impacts and some of the improvements that are being discussed? Looking at these different scenarios and the different AMI mixes, these populations have different. One might have 2 cars at the same AMI and one bus at another. Have you looked at that kind of mix and how it connects with the transportation effects?
So as to the number of cars, we have based it on the number of parking spaces. So as your AMI drops, and you may have lesser cars, while the actual car is less, but the traffic study is based on the maximum amount of parking available. So it assumes worst case scenario. So if you have the higher MI that's having higher cars, the parking structure is full, that's what the parking count is based on. As to mitigation measures,
So I kind of jumped in. As to what Mo was just saying, we have seen rental projects generally will require less parking. And as for the bicycle parking, if there is additional required bicycle parking beyond the capacity presented, they can convert some of those parking stalls into bicycle parking as well.
Thank you. Very good point. Bicycle parking is also provided as it's significant bicycle parking. Actually, we do make sure that it's in our communities, including the workshop where you need to fix your bike so that your bike works. But on mitigation measures, I don't. So I mean, the main concern of what we've done with the mitigation measures is access going down on H1 to access. There is no ability for any exit from our community to go ahead and impact the traffic on the pattern that they have to go around. And while that does create circulation pattern in other areas, it absolutely prevents adding direct congestion to that area. It absolutely prevents the ability of anybody to cut through in that manner. So in order not to create a safety hazard for both pedestrian or vehicle. So that's been visited extensively. And there are other improvements also on the turn coming up of the side road facing to again force the cars not to be able to veer to the left, force them in. That again, trying to minimize the impact. That's been reviewed, I think, by multiple agencies as well.
So, there's, after, there's still a couple of more entitlements that need to go through city council, is that correct?
There's city zoning committee, which will be a public hearing process, and that's believe it's tentatively scheduled for January 10th. And then it goes to full council, which is also a public hearing, comments provided by various agencies, including me, for comment there. As Albert mentioned earlier, it is to the city council's discretion to, and add additional restrictions or impose additional changes. So there's a couple of more reviews by public policies, with public hearing to address any concerns or changes.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions or comments? I guess we call to the question. All those in favor? Aye, by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. This time we're gonna let's take a 5-minute recess. Okay, we're back from recess. We are going to item 3E, which is to approve negotiation and execution of a memorandum of agreement between the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation, the University of Hawaii, and the Hawaii Community Development Authority. 2, issuance of a request for proposals in accordance with the MOA. And 3, an interim loan from the dwelling unit revolving fund for a leasehold primarily affordable project on approximately 19 acres, University of Hawaii at West Oahu, located in Kapolei, Oahu, TMK numbers 9-1-016-220 and 223. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, we have a second. Is there anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Fujimoto.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Fujimoto Development Section. The University of Hawaii is the fee simple owner of approximately 19 acres at the UH West Oahu, near the Keone Skyline Transit Station in Kapolei, Oahu. The property is bordered by the existing Ho'omohala Avenue and Kualakai Parkway and future roads P and H. HHFDC is negotiating a memorandum of agreement with the UH and HCDA for the leasehold development of a primarily residential, primarily affordable, mixed-use project at the property with complementary commercial uses as part of a university village at UH West Oahu. Ho'omohala Avenue is envisioned as the University Village Main Street and a key entry point to the UH West Oahu campus. In 2023, CDA was appropriated $25 million for on-site infrastructure at UH West Oahu. On September 6, 2023, the HCDA Board of Directors approved its executive director to enter into an MOA to procure a contractor to design and build future roads D and H. A draft of the MOA is attached as Exhibit C to the for action, with major terms as follows. HCDA's responsibilities include the procurement of contractors for the design and construction of roads D and H. UH's responsibilities include the following: provide necessary program requirements and property information prior to issuance of the RFP, or issue ground leases to the RFP developer for the proposed uses. HHFDC's responsibilities include the following: issue an RFP for the leasehold development, sale of for sale units, and ownership and operation of residential rental and or commercial projects at the property, including the following requirements. The project shall be primarily designed for affordable housing at 140% or below the AMI. Residential projects may be either leasehold for sale or rental projects. However, at least 50% of the total units must be for sale units. All for sale units must be owner occupied for the duration of the ownership of the unit. Affordable for sale units shall be subject to HHFDC's buyback and shared appreciation requirements. Affordable rental projects shall remain affordable for the term of the ground lease. The term of the ground lease for all uses shall be up to 99 years, as approved by UH and HHFDC. Lease rent payments for the property shall be as proposed by the RFP developer, but shall be subject to the following minimums. $450,000 a year to the UH and $50,000 a year to HHFDC for administrative expenses escalated at 3% a year for the duration of the ground lease. And HHFDC proposes to manage the development of the project. To encourage developer interest and facilitate development of the project, this for action also seeks approval of $5 million in their funds for an interim loan for the project. Major terms of the DERF loan are as follows. The borrower will be the RFP developer or other successor entity approved by the executive director. 5% interest per annum compounded annually. 2 points loan fee. The loan term of 5 years with 2 options to extend at 1 year per option at 1% of the total loan amount per extension, unless otherwise further extended at the discretion of the executive director. The security will be an interim ground lease of the property to the RFP developer. The DERF loan will be repaid at the financial closing of the first project at the property. The borrower's overhead, project management, and developer's fee shall not be paid from the DERF loan. The DERF loan will be forgiven if the project is determined to be unfeasible due to factors beyond the control of the developer or to the extent allowed to be allocated to off-site infrastructure that benefit development of future residential phases as approved by HHFDC. In summary, this for action seeks approval of the following for a leasehold primarily affordable project at UH West Oahu in Kapolei, Oahu, substantially as discussed in this for action. A memorandum of agreement with UH and HCDA, issuance of an RFP in accordance with the MOA, up to $5 million in their funds for an interim loan, subject to the following: availability of their funds and approval of release of their funds by the governor. I am available for questions.
Okay, board members, do you have questions?
Stan. So there are 3 entities involved in here: University of Hawaii, HCDA, HHFDC. I'm looking at the memorandum agreement. Whose project is this out of all 3 of them?
Basically, a UH project.
It's a UH project. So I'm looking at the memorandum agreement. UH is going to buy the land. That's important. HCDA basically is doing some stuff to do infrastructure, on-site improvements with the 35 million that they were given. There's a whole bunch of work that HHFDC has to do for this thing. Do we have the bandwidth and the capacity to actually get this thing? I mean, that's a lot of responsibility that's being put on this particular agent, it seems like, for the project.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, but this is what we typically do for our RFP project. 690 Pahukaina, right on the corner. Yeah, we're doing the same type of work. Okay. For RFPs in Kapolei.
Yeah, but that's completely ours. Here's 2 other state agencies that I feel like, I mean, HCDA does have some capacity to as well. I mean, I'd like to see them. So is this MOA finalized or is still up for negotiation?
It's still being negotiated.
Okay.
It will require quite a bit of coordination between us, CDA, and UH.
Okay.
And Anna, can you update us on the status with HCDA and UH?
I don't know the latest on HCDA. I think HCDA has the money, right? The legislature has approved it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, not the fund. So I guess HCDA's board has authorized the director to pursue this.
That's correct.
Then with UH.
As I understand it, they discussed it at their board of regents meeting on December 7th, but it was deferred. I think they need more detail.
it was deferred, but Albert, which indicated that he can proceed, he can move ahead with the MOA.
Anyone else? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Going on to the next agenda item, which is item 3F. Is to approve the revised ordinances of Honolulu Chapter 32 Affordable Rental Housing Program for certification for exemption from general excise tax as the government assistance program under Hawaii Revised Statutes, sections 237-29 and 201H-36 subsection A2 of the Hawaii Administrative Rules, section 15-306. Yeah, and I have a motion to approve. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay, is there anyone in the public wishing to testify on this agenda item? Hearing none, we will turn it over.
Hello, hi, Chair, Vice Chair members. My name is Heather Murakami. I'm a housing development specialist in the development section. This is, as it states in the for action, this is to approve ROH, City and County of Honolulu, ROH Chapter 32 programs or developments to receive a general excise tax exemption. So probably easier understood as Bill 7 wants to have the ability to use the G37 program. Does that make a little more sense? The long mouthful in the title, it is the general excise tax exemption G37, which they would like to use for very specifically the Bill 7 type programs. The background on Bill 7, which was then adopted as Ordinance 19.8 and subsequently codified as Chapter 32. From the city today, we have the Deputy Director from DPP, Jiro Swada, and the their housing guy. He's got a really long title, which I should have written down. Craig Hirai, who I believe you all know as having been, part of this board. So they're also here if you have any specific questions for the city. Chapter 32 is a program that seeks to take smaller lot, 5 to 20,000 square foot residential lots, AMX, BMX, but mostly residential lots that maybe have older structures and revitalize them by being able to put up some affordable housing in 2E and 2E in particular. There's the development standards. The Exhibit A is actually Chapter 32, and there's drawings and height limits and density amounts and all of the wonderful development things that the developer will is the standards that they're constructing to. In particular, the Chapter 32 program is very consistent with the mission and the aims of HHFDC, and that they are trying to build affordable rentals economically and quickly. And in order to use the general excise tax exemption, they would agree to our guidelines, which would be a minimum of 30 years of affordability, wage and hour, and they would execute a development agreement. Any question?
Well, this is basically giving this city county one more tool in the tool.
Yes. And
encourage affordability.
yes, and
Reduce costs, basically.
And we have approved this sort of government assistance program for maybe about 20 years ago for the military. So we're not reinventing the wheel necessarily.
It's good. Anyone, board member, anyone? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay, so, to do next, we have, two more items on the agenda today, and one, the next agenda item will call for an executive session, which would involve clearing out the room, and rather than doing all of that, what we'll do is go to item 3. We have a number of guests here today from Waiahole Valley, and so what I'd like to do is go to the agenda item, and we'll come back to item D after. This item H is a request by the Waiahole Wakane Community Association Agricultural Lessees for lots 41, 10, 98, 124, 86, 74, 84, 138, 76, and 85A for the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Board of Directors to accept their settlement offers proposed in the October 27th, 2023 letter from Dealey, King, Dang, and this is not a for action, but it's a request on the agenda. And well, I think I inquired previously if there was someone who was going to present on behalf, but I believe that's not the case. I think so. Anyone who's here today that would like to give testimony to the board, feel free to do so. We do have some testimony rules that Dell can maybe, since a lot of the folks were not here at the start of the meeting, if you want to go ahead and review those again for us. So that everybody understands, and then.
Okay, anyone wishing to present oral testimony should indicate to the chair. Oral testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the discretion of the chair. Your testimony must be related to an item on the board agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. After 3 minutes, I will call time, after which you will have 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer.
So at this time, I'd like to anyone who wishes to speak on this agenda item. And could you identify yourself?
Good morning. My name is Dennis King. I'm going to take more than 3 minutes. I know under your rules 21, you have the discretion to allow a reasonable time to present evidence and argument. If you feel I'm not being productive, cut me off.
I do want to say,
otherwise ask you to indulge me.
I do want to say, prior to today, I did make an inquiry and I did ask if there would be a spokesperson, because I wanted to allow the spokesperson to have ample time to make a presentation. Are you the spokesperson?
Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of one farmer. His name is James Song. He's not able to be here today.
I think at this point, we have a yes here today. I would like to ask that you try to limit your testimony to 3 minutes. I'm going to ask that of you and the others here today.
We have 8 other speakers after me, so they'll be within the 3 minute time limit, but I'm just suggesting that I'll probably go over. I know you have the right to limit it to 3, but I'd ask for the same indulgence that you gave to the other speakers here today. I don't think anybody was cut off at 3 minutes.
Please proceed.
So as I've mentioned, my name is Dennis King, DENNISKING. I'm speaking today as the appointed negotiator for James Song, a farmer in his 70s who's been farming Waiahole Valley for over 45 years. He's not able to be here today. Mr. Song, like 8 other farmers, made a counteroffer to the HHFDC on October 27. I'm here to recommend that the board accept his counteroffer and those of the other farmers and not pursue arbitration. Mr. Song and the other 8 farmers are poor or unprofitable farmers for a variety of reasons. As you'll hear, old age, physical disabilities, deaths in their families, loss of farm hands, flooding, poor soil, excessive steepness, and pests. HHFDC has asked them to pay increased rents based upon its settlement with 10 profitable farmers known as the Mahiai Group, who are paying approximately 3 times more than their previous rent. Asking unprofitable farmers to pay what profitable farmers are paying is not only unreasonable, but it's contrary to the lease formula. Although the formula starts with fair rental value under the leases, the second factor is the historical productivity or profitability of the farmers. That's what we ask you to look at. Mr. Song and the other farmers are either losing money or barely eking out a marginal profit. None of them pay themselves. If you factor in a reasonable rate of $15 to $20 an hour for their time, every one of them are losing money. So in determining a new rent, the arbitrator and the board, before we get there, if we hopefully can avoid getting there, must consider their unprofitability as the second factor in the formula. Your staff has done its best to try and obtain increased rents in fulfilling its role as representatives of the board. They've made recommendations to the board to reject these counteroffers. But it's the board's responsibility to make decisions and to reject its staff's recommendations if those recommendations are not in the best interest of either the board or the farmers, as is the case in this situation. Mr. Song has been the victim of many floods, including severe ones in 2002, 2005, 2011, and 2012, where he lost all of his papaya and banana crops. Pictures of him in the newspaper standing with all the trees littered in front of him after floods. WWCA's appraiser has determined that 73% of his lot is not farmable because of steepness and excessive flooding from the river that runs through it. Why should he pay more than 27% rent on his property? Why should he pay any higher rent if he's already losing money with the current rent? After hearing the farmers testify, you will want to ask yourselves and your staff what the purpose is in going to arbitration and spending $50,000 more in attorney, arbitrator, and appraiser fees. I'm going to pass out to you my estimate of the cost to go to arbitration. I think it's probably an underestimate. I would ask you to ask your own attorney what his estimate is.
Could you please just wrap up? Take a minute to wrap up.
Well, one of the other farmers is going to yield 3 minutes to me. This is the owner of the lessee of lots 74 and 84. They're going to speak only for 3 minutes on their time. The Lopes family. It's between HHFDC's last offer and Mr. Song's counteroffer and the other 8 farmers that would justify rejecting them. I'm going to pass out a chart to you right now that shows the difference between the offers that were made by HHFDC and the offers that are on the table from the farmers, including Mr. Song. So if you look down on that chart, you'll see that the third from the bottom is lot 98 for Mr. Song. The amount that HHFDC wants him to pay is $213.40 a month. He's offered to pay $165 per month, which is double his current rent. The difference between HHFDC and him is $48.31 more that HHFDC is seeking. If you look at that last column and the one right before it, the last column is the rent per year. The one before that is per month. You can see that almost every one of the farmers is only $50 away from what HHFDC is seeking. So if you convert that to monthly total rent, we're $682.37 apart. Put it into a yearly amount, it's almost $8,200. That's the difference between the parties right now. So my question to you as board members is it prudent for the board to spend more than $50,000 in arbitration costs to try to recover a total increase of less than $8,200 per year from these farmers? In the October 27 mediation, HHFDC made the first offer by moving its position down 3%. That was matched by the farmers who moved up 3%. At that point, HHFDC stopped negotiating in terms of dollar amounts. All they did at that point was to release a penalty provision in a quarterly reporting form that they're asking the farmers to agree to go along with. At that point, we were at an impasse. We asked the mediator what he suggested. He made a proposal that we split the difference between HHFDC and my client's position. My clients didn't want to do it. Most of them didn't want to use this quarterly reporting form, but they did it. We made that proposal. That's the proposal that's on the table today. We've got HHFDC that moved down 3%. My clients have moved up 50%. We're asking that you accept that proposal. Now, HHFDC, based on its staff's decision at the mediation, refused to accept the mediator's proposal. In fact, the mediator told us that they would not even submit that proposal to the board. If an impartial retired appellate court judge recommended these counteroffers, why is HHFDC rejecting them? Is it a wise decision for the board to reject them? And I suggest not. Is it likely that the HHFDC will get $8,200 more per year from an impartial arbitrator when an impartial mediator suggests that this is a good result for both sides? Is there a risk that HHFDC will get less than these counteroffers in arbitration? I think there is. That's based upon the lease formula when you look at the second factor that relates to productivity and profitability. If a farmer is losing money now, is it likely that an arbitrator is going to say, we're going to increase your rent so that you can lose more money? I don't think so. I think there's a real likelihood that there can be no rent increase, and that's what we'll argue in the arbitration. Will HHFDC balance its budget by trying to squeeze $8,200 a year more out of these farmers? Clearly not. Are the probable benefits from rejecting these offers going to arbitration greater than the downside risk? In my opinion, it's highly unlikely that an impartial arbitrator will award greater rent than what the farmers have offered. And it's more than likely that they will determine no rent increases or nominal increases at best, because it's directly inconsistent with the lease formula. This is a unique lease formula. I doubt if you have a single lease under all of the programs that you're administering that provide for looking at the productivity or profitability of farmers as a factor. If it was just fair rental value, we wouldn't have an argument here. It's pretty clear. It's going to be one appraiser versus the other appraiser, but that's not what we've got. By accepting the pending offers, the board avoids the expensive costs of arbitration, the risk that there will be no rent increase. At the same time, the board secures the use of a quarterly reporting form that its staff wants, and which you won't get in arbitration. That's because it's not permitted under the lease. But as a settlement offer, the farmers are offering to go along with that. More importantly, by accepting these counteroffers, the board fulfills its kuleana stated in the Declaration of Restrictive Covenants, done in less than 30 seconds. And it's the Declaration of Restrictive Covenants for the Waiahole Valley, which is to protect and preserve the agricultural and rural nature of the project as an agricultural park, rural residential subdivision. And objectively looking at the benefits of these offers and the disadvantages of arbitration, the preponderance of the evidence clearly weighs in favor of accepting the offers, which I suggest to you are really too good to refuse. You certainly don't want to try and get higher rent in an arbitration that's going to force these farmers to default and no longer be able to farm. Thank you for indulging me for the extra time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Come up next.
Excuse me, I have a question, please. I'm Cynthia Hopkins. I'm with the farmers at Waiahole. Is it okay if I take a picture of them, just them giving their testimony?
It's fine. Sure.
So these should be the testimonies to those that are coming up all along.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to present my testimony.
Just for the record, we know you are Norman Sotoyama. Okay.
My name is Norman Sotoyama. I am a lessee of Lot 41A in Waiahole Valley, where I've been farming for more than 55 years. Farming is a hard business. It takes a toll on a person's body like mine. I have had both my knees, both my hips replaced. I'm still farming on a full-time basis, harder than I ever did. I've taken all of my retirement money, which was in that much. I invested in my farm because of my belief and determination to continue farming. The increased rent proposal that I offered to HHFDC at the mediation meeting is more than fair, especially because I have been paying rent on unusable farmland for more than 25 years. I was at the mediation meeting and agreed to increase my offer. At the end of the mediation, before the mediator made his proposal, I'm not willing to pay the increase in rent nor accept HHFDC's quality reporting forms. The WWCA's appraiser found that out of 47.504 acres leased to me, only 9.23 acres are usable for farming, mostly because it's too steep and could cause major erosion. Along with it, it's not being environmentally and economically sound in farming practices. My farm has been losing money and it's not profitable because climate change causing too much rain damage to crops, strong corner wind, a battle with crop disease, feral pigs, feral chickens, a major investment in time and money in eradicating and maintaining invasive albedo trees, which continue to be an ongoing problem and battle. The high cost of petroleum that plays an important part in the day-to-day operation of farming. The pandemic caused a dramatic decrease in sales. My love for farming has given me perseverance and overcome many adversities. I would like to make it clear that although my farm is in the red most of the time, I've been producing over 1 million pounds of produce for the people of Hawaii. I don't expect you to understand the adversities of the farmers that we face compared to the normal working people, but we do play an important role in the economic and the sustainability for the state of Hawaii. I'm sure your life does not only revolve around your job, so also with my life. I've been giving back to the society, doing volunteer work for the state of Hawaii once a week at night for over 40 years. My situation is obvious. Just on the basis of 80% of unusable land that I lease, I asked the board to consider and accept my rent offer. Thank you.
Scott. You want to go next? Sorry, that packet's out of order.
Aloha kako. Good morning, everyone. Mahalo for allowing this testimony. My name is Marie Revilla. I'm number 6, I believe, on the list, but I'll have to leave a little early so they move. I'm speaking for my mother, Vincetta Filkowski, my deceased father, Terry Filkowski, and my uncle Dennis and Nancy Lydia Kaka. They are the lessees of Lot 76A in Waiahole family, where our family has resided since the 1960s. Elizabeth Marks, McCandless's heir, hired my grandfather in the 60s to serve as caretaker for their entire South Waiahole Valley Road. Originally, we raised cattle, horses, pigs, chickens, and ducks. My mother trained horses and used 2 acres for stalls and an arena to ride in. These acres no longer exist. This land was washed away by Waianu River because of modifications made by HHFDC to the river. They replaced the bridge and culverted parts of the river, followed by 2 major storms in the 1990s, and illegal modifications made to the river by our neighbors. The increased rent that the lots represented by WWCA offered to HHFDC at the mediation is fair. My mother, Consetta, who represents both families, was at the mediation and agreed to increase our offer at the end of the mediation based on the mediator's proposal. Before the mediator made his proposal, we were not willing to pay as much rent or to accept HHFDC's quarterly reporting form. WWCA's appraiser found that out of 14.214 acres leased to my family, only 9.523 acres are usable for farming. 33% of that lot is not farmable because of its high slope, terraces, swamps, and the river, which often floods it. Our farm has been losing money and is not profitable due to a number of reasons. In 2020, the year of the COVID pandemic, our vendors stopped taking deliveries as all in-person contact was stopped. In 2020 and 2021, there was significant storm damage from flooding and erosion. Here's a photo of how our lands continue to be affected by the flooding. This is almost an annual occurrence, and our repeated pleas over the years for help to HHFDC and the Army Corps of Engineers has gone unanswered. Our tropical flowers were then infected by a fungus, which gave us no choice to pull them out to rest the land. We are slowly beginning the process of replanting the tropical flowers. We are attempting to diversify our crops. We have planted breadfruit, kalo, and avocado for the market, and we have invested in heavy equipment, tractors, and excavators to work the land. I ask the board to consider our situation and difficulty and accept my mother's rent offer. Mahalo.
Would anyone else like to give testimony?
Uncle Albert.
Now it's still in the morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Albert Badillo Jr. That's ALBERT BADIYO Jr. I am the leasee of lot 86A in Waihole Valley, where I have been farming since 1983. At one time, I had many hardworking hands to help me on a farm. My wife, 3 daughters, 1 son, 2 foster sons, one of whom I'm adopted, a few nephews and nieces, both related in Calabash, many hands to help my farm operating and running. Now all grown and on their own, those hands are now contributed to our state and its society. My wife of 40+ years have passed. Now only these 2 hands work on my livelihood. I'm going to skip around, so just follow when you can, how you can. Farming is, I don't like to go past 3 minutes. Farming is very feasible. In most all great, big, and small nations and countries, farming is their backbone. Farmers contribute their hard work to build and sustain their population. In our case, here in Waihole, farming is more than ever is needed to help our state and its people fed, running, and living. Help and caring and management in all cases will determine progress. More farm commodities are needed as the population grows. The increase in rent and the logistics may hurt, not help my contribution to our state. For farmers, the weather is crucial. Equipment, maintenance, clearing of the land, diseases, virus are daily battles. We're up against nature. And to battle our own brothers and sisters in the state is bad and it's horrible. We farmers know what's needed. Help us, not hurt us. Throughout these years, I have contributed and I have lost. Papaya and banana crops, 2 acres, lost in one single day due to the weather. Rebuild, prosper, survive, lose again. I don't complain. I pick up and go on living. I have experience in many different crops and commodities. I am strong. I have many years left to profit, to gain. I've been in this valley since 1957. My Waihole is my home. I ask the board to consider my situation and difficulties and accept my offer. Thank you. Who's on there?
This is the testimony.
Next, right?
Thank you, Linda.
Good morning, everyone. Linda Char, Lopes Farms, lot 74 and 84. So, it's where I've been farming with my mom and the rest of my sister's siblings for many years. So the increase of rent that I offered to HHFDC at the mediation is fair. I was at the mediation and agreed to increase my offer at the end of the mediation based on the mediator's proposal. Before the mediator made his proposal, I was not willing to pay as much rent or to accept HHFDC's quarterly reporting farm. WWCA's appraisers found that out of 3.977 acres leased to me on lot 84 only has 1.615 acres are usable for farming. 59% of that lot is not farmable because it is cut through by a river, which runs right through the farm now, at least 60 to 90 feet. River is in our property on lot 84. Yeah, we put in many hours and money to remove debris that come from the top of our property into our property. We put in a lot of monies and time. We also spent hours replanting. There came another flood, and then there was another flood. Heartbreaking. So with that, I came here a couple years ago to talk to Jason at that time because of the river, to come and see if they can reassess our property. To no avail. He never showed up. And no help. He never had a phone call or visit until I called to complain about there being no water in the river. Jason came because he knew that he allowed the bishops, Hanalei bishops, to divert our water to their property. When Jason saw the dry riverbed, he said that Hanalei did it wrong. So I was thinking, does the state give that to agree to divert the river? Anyway, my mother was told not to divert river water and she had to regulate when she uses that water. And she's been using that water back in the days since she passed away. To me, the landlord, which is HHFDC, should be responsible for damages. And renters are responsible for paying their rent and land tax. So please agree on what I'm offering for that property. Thank you for your time.
The board, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Silvestre Ulet. I'm the leasing of Lot 10A in Waiahole Valley, where I have been farming for the past 14 years. The increased rent that I offered to HHFDC at the mediation is more than fair. I was at the mediation and agreed to accept the mediator's proposal. At the end of the mediation, before he made his proposal, I was not willing to pay as much rent or to accept the quarterly reporting. The WCA's appraiser found that only 2 acres out of almost 3 acres, at least to me, are usable for farming. 28% of the land is not farmable because it's located in a floodway, and the drainage ditches cut through my farm. My farm has been losing money and is not profitable because it is the lowest in the area. It is subject to yearly flooding every time there are heavy rains. Flooding comes from the mountain in the rear, and adjacent farm on the left drains to my farm via drainage ditch. And when the Waiahole stream overflows its banks at the Poi Factory Cam Highway Bridge by the Waiahole Poi Factory, taps the highway. Flooding comes from the highway into our farms because Cam Highway acts like a dam, and so the water reverses and floods the farm. So my farm is flooded from the rear, one side, and from Cam Highway. And it's so hard to for the vegetable plants, they wilt and die out. And then the birds beat us from the harvesting whatever produce remain. It is hard to start over again when crops are destroyed. You have to clean up the mud, debris and rubbish off the farm, not to mention the floors of flooded farm structures. Now also a new problem caused by the rhinoceros beetle boring the coconut tree tops, killing the trees eventually, which will be catastrophic to the future yield of the coconut trees. The strong wind also causes banana trees to fall to the ground during heavy rains with strong winds. My offer, our first offer, the HFDC offer was 6.6 times our present rent. And then the last HFDC offer was 4.8 times the current monthly rent. And we increased my monthly rent to 3 times the existing. And then I asked, I thought that was more than fair because of the unprofitability of the farm. So I respectfully request the board to consider my offer 3 times my monthly rent. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Gwen Quiniam. I am the leasing of lot number 138A in Waiahole Valley, where I've been farming since I was in town. It was myself, my father, from the very beginning. He's done this all his time. We manually cleared the property. He built his own house. He started some trees. And my husband, who was a heavy equipment operator, used the hopto to clear the driveway, make the driveway, maintain the driveway, clear the land, try and level the land. And just to improve it to be farmable, period. But I had lost my son about 14 years ago. And my husband and my father passed away 1 month apart about 7 years ago. This represents 3 pairs of free working hands. to help us. And a free truck and access to free equipment. I think the increase rent that I had offered to HHFDC at the mediation was fair. I was at the mediation and agreed to accept the mediator's proposal at the end of the mediation. Before he made his proposal, I was not willing to pay as much rent or to accept reporting form. WCA's appraiser found that I only have 1.18 acres on my farm out of the 2.9 acres that was leased to me. Percent of the land is not farmable because of the hillside ditches. Of the 1.8 acres which are farmable, these are scattered areas. It's not all in one place. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. But altogether, approximately 1 acre. For a couple of seasons, we were additionally, the soil is actually made out of clay, a lot of clay. My father had mature avocado trees. For a couple of seasons, we had to deal with thieves raiding our crops before we were able to pick them. This has always been an ongoing situation due to the property being right off the highway. We also have a coconut tree, ulu tree, which is up on the hillside, whose fruits also get wiped out before we can harvest, even the young ones. My father originally picked the property due to its poor soil. He used to work with UH, with undeveloped countries, to see what kind of plants could grow, what kind of trees could grow on such bad soil. He picked the worst piece of property in Wyoming. All of our avocado trees that he grew got wiped out, every single one of them, by ground termites. They love avocados also. We had a small patch of bananas that my youngest son had grown, and eventually, after 2 crops, got wiped out by the bungee top virus. Upon the passing of my husband and my father, we did lose the access to the free, like I said, driver, operator, and just a lot of help. My husband did a lot of clearing. The income from both my mother and myself were also cut in half. My mother is now 92 years old. And she supports my 71-year-old sister, which I try to help them as much as possible. My sister tends to be a little mentally handicapped. They will definitely be displaced, and that's even with my help. And I won't be able to afford that. My parents, as they said, had built a house, and we all helped clear manually here until I got married and have equipment. And so we have paid all the land taxes, we have paid all the rent, and everything is up to date. We've also been planting mango trees again, and continuously, you plant flowers, you plant different trees. This takes time in growing, maintaining. We do ask the board to consider my situation and my rent offer. I do thank you for your focus.
Before I start my testimony, I would like to thank my Holy Spirit for allowing me one more day of life and for being here today. Is it okay if I stand? Thank you. Aloha kako, greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Madonna Ke'ohukapumeri. I'm a farmer of lot 124A. I have a 3.367 diversified agricultural lot. Currently, 1.3 acres are usable. Due to the flood zone, 6.067 acres are non-usable, which is equivalent to 61%. My farm has encountered every flood of the calendar year. In the year of 2005, my late husband and I both agreed to join 7 other residents of Waihole Waikani Community Association to build a home with Self-Help Housing Corporation of Hawaii. Self-Help Housing of Hawaii hired Fukunaga and Associates to survey the applicant's farm residence lots. After surveying our farm, Fukunaga and Associate recommended that we obtain another lease from HHFDC because Lot 124A is designated as a floodway district. Therefore, our application to build a home was denied. We wrote a letter to HHFDC to switch to another lot, but that too was denied. This photo I have here shows a diagram of my farm lot 124A. The dark blue area indicates the flood zoning section, and where this thin line here goes right through my farm is the Waihole Stream. The Waihole Stream is a large portion of the non-usable acre. Unfortunately, due to all the floods of the Y124A lot have encountered, my crops had failed. Extended work hours, cleaning excess amount of debris, and loss of nutrients in the soil has caused us lost profits. In addition to that, I do not pay myself. These maps here are from the city and county of Honolulu, shows the flood area and the flood elevation. Knowing I have been in the floodway district all these years, cleaning and clearing damages from the flood, I consider myself a caretaker. Caretaker gets paid. I remember earlier, I mentioned I do not pay myself. However, as my salary, I would graciously ask for an affordable lease rent. Please consider my current offer made through mediation on Friday, October 27, 2023. Mahalo nui kako. Thank you all very much.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me?
Can you state your name?
Sorry, Vernon Ota. Well, anyway, my name is Vernon Ota. I am a lessee of lot 85A in Waihole Valley, where I have been farming for the past 40 years. My wife died 19 years ago, and I was ready to give up on the farming since I had bad knees from having worked also in the construction industry before. But I changed my mind when my son agreed to return and help me farm. I think the increased rent that I offered to the HSDC mediation is fair. I was at the mediation and agreed to accept the mediator's proposal at the end of the mediation. Before he made his proposal, I was not willing to pay as much rent or accept the HHFDC quarterly reporting farm. My farm has been losing money and not profitable because of the papaya ring spot virus, caused the demise of my papaya trees on the farm. In response, I transmitted to cultivating GMO plants, which showed promise. However, challenges persisted, including issues like root rot, plant dampening off. Also, high winds and excessive rain further complicated matters, leading to the toppling of papaya tree and banana trees. Tackling wide scale on both trees and fruits became necessary also. Efforts to address the water runoff through trenches helped to some extent, although heavy rain remains a concern. Growing ginger in the old banana field initially thrived but succumbed to disease over time. Sweet potato faced infestation of weevil, and cultivation process took a toll on my knees. Hawaiian chili peppers suffered losses also because of the tobacco mosaic virus, sorry. The impact extends beyond the crops. Crop loss translates to income loss, and the expenses associated with the fertilizer, pesticides, water, time, and plant compound the financial strain. Replacing these resources incurs additional costs. The problematic challenges collectively contribute to the farm's ongoing financial difficulties, which has persisted over the years. I ask the board to consider my experience and difficulties and accept my rent offer. Thank you for your time and help. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to give this mic? Okay, thank you all. I think at this time, ask Chris, did you? I do want to, before you give it any, I just want to. When we started the process of rent negotiation, the board of directors, and I was on the board of directors designated Chris Woodard to be authorized to negotiate both with residential and agricultural entities and the commercial entities. And he has the authority of the board to settle. And he has been following the process of the lease agreements to try to reach agreements for quits. That's it. Chris, I'll turn over to you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, I think we should thank the members of the Waiole community for taking an entire morning out of their day to come down into town. Happy to report that as of today, we've reached settlements on rents with 86% of the lessees in Waiole Valley. So I believe we have 14 left to do, of which 10 are represented today behind me. I have 5 points I'd like to make here. First, I regret to say that there was no mediator's proposal. This is a fabrication of the WWCA's attorney, made to be fed to the public to make us seem unreasonable. Regarding appraisal reports and appraisal data, while we heard today of the WWCA appraisers' alleged findings regarding so-called unusable land areas, we didn't hear anything about the appraisers' market value conclusions on rents. At the WWCA's request, over a year ago, HHFDC shared our appraisal information with the other side. Regrettably, the WWCA did not keep its promise to reciprocate. Something that actually happened as part of the mediation process. The mediator asked if the parties would share appraisal information with the other side. HHFDC agreed, WWCA refused. Regarding the offers that we have made and which are on the table, they're way below market. Everyone's treated the same. In year 40 of the leases, the rent will be a little bit more than double than it was in year 1. And I note that much of the agricultural lease value is due to the allowed residential use. We've offered the same deal to everyone. That's consistent with the board's policy. It's also what the WWCA argued for just a few months ago in relation to the residential lot leases, that everyone be treated the same. Yes, there will be arbitration costs. And I would argue that it's the WWCA burdening the state's taxpayers with these costs by not being reasonable and accepting our offers. Our offers will remain open. We're hopeful that the WWCA will realize that the state has offered a very good, very fair deal. And those offers will remain open until the arbitrators make a binding decision. That's all I have to say.
Board members, do you have any questions at this time, Chris? Can you just go back and clarify that one point about valuation?
Sure. As far as
Residential.
yeah, so most ag leases in Hawaii don't allow residential uses on them. Most of the lessees behind me, I believe 9 out of 10, have homes on their property. So a lot of the value in having that lease is the ability to have your home there.
Formula for
Yes, there's a formula for that.
which applies to both the improvement, the residential improvement, and the portion of the land that's.
Yeah, there's a formula applied to the residential portion of the land, and then the separate one applies to the ag portion.
And that's the methodology that's been used for all of the leases to date as far as.
Yep.
Those that have reached agreement, those that have not.
Same formula for everyone.
So the attorney representing HHFDC is here today. Do we need to discuss anything in executive session today?
I don't believe so, no.
Should take this opportunity.
I have nothing to discuss in executive session. If you feel like, we'd like to get the advice of our attorney, we can certainly do that.
Well, I'll put it on to the board members. If there's any board member that feels the need to have discussion in executive session, this is an opportunity. Not.
I respond to a couple things he said because
Actually, no, we're not gonna have debates on the floor. I think I was fair with you in giving you the additional time to do that.
But I mean, he gets to respond to what I said. I don't get a chance to respond to him accusing me of fabricating.
We have your letter, we have also from I think we're gonna be. That's my decision. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chair.
I had a question. I want to rebut what you said.
I'm not gonna really finish the debate today, and actually, if you want to give testimony, if you'd like to come up and give.
Well, I want to rebut what he said.
If you want to come up and give testimony to do so, you're welcome to do that.
My name is Glenelle Donald. I'm not a farmer. I'm a resident. He said, forgot his name. Chris. He wants everybody to be fair. Why I read different. Not the same as our farmers. Why is that? Mahiai group. The third police group.
And that's, you're referencing the group of, was it 10?
Those were that was a group of, I believe, 10 that we initially settled with. Yep. And so, based on that negotiated settlement, we offered that deal to everyone else.
Is that
true? Is that true?
not exactly.
Yeah. Not exactly.
Not exactly.
It's not fair.
Chris,
There was one difference initially, which was that we had asked for a clause to be added to the lease whereby the rent would ratchet up if the lessee was not in compliance with the diversified agricultural requirements of the lease. However, during the mediation process, we dropped that request. So currently, everyone is offered the same deal as everyone else who has already signed.
And the methodology that was used to.
And the rent formulas are the same.
Chairman, excuse me, can I do testimony?
Yeah.
Thank you. I wasn't planning to because I really wanted to leave it up to the farmers, and if you don't mind, I prefer standing.
Well, yes, sure.
Thank you. My name is Lucy Salas. I'm the president of WWCA, and thank you for having us here today. After the mediation, which I was a part of as well, we decided to have to come to the board because we just cannot work with lying and fabrication. Thank you for saying it. Because Chris, when he set the basis on all of the farmers and residents, as we had gone through this negotiation for over a year now, we've been having there is no reason why these 9 farmers who have special circumstances, and I say special, because they don't have what my profitability due to their that they were given in the beginning of the time in the 70s. So nor should he have compared. We are our own people and we have different circumstances. And Chris said it to us. Is this fair? I'm not. That means the world. We love each other. And that's why we are here. Please listen to the truth. Dennis King, I couldn't have. He loves us. He represents us. And it's about us. He comes time with us. Not speculate us. Not who we are. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Board members, any comments? No request for executive, then I guess we end this agenda item at this time. Oh, there's you've been here before.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Yeah, almost afternoon. Hi, my name is Paul Zwang. I'm the Vice President of the WWCA. As you said, I've been here before. I just want to, I wasn't prepared to talk today, so I just want to make a comment regarding something Chris said. Where he said just a little while ago, if I got it right, Chris, you know, we want everybody treated fairly across the board, same deal for everybody. That's not exactly true. I think if you'll remember, I was more involved with the residential portion of the lease renegotiation. And our theme and what we felt was proper was to use affordability. And when you use affordability, it necessarily entails that everyone is treated differently and that you're not giving everybody the same deal because some people have more means than others. And so, I would just take issue with that. And I would, well, so I'll just leave that. The second thing too, I'd like the board to be aware of something that I don't think anybody would expect the board to be aware of because, you know, you guys got a lot of things to do and you're not living and working in Waiahole. But it's been a real problem that once all this does get settled out, will actually be an issue that will continue for years. What am I talking about? The fact that Chris and his team decided to go to a group that's called the Mahiai has served to divide the valley. So now there's Mahiai and not Mahiai. And I, you know, applaud Chris and from a strictly strategic point of view. It was smart that he went to the Mahiai because as we discussed in an earlier board meeting, there was a board member that was sitting about where the man in the red shirt is. He's no longer here at this board meeting, but he noticed the comment of a strategy where you go to people first to make a deal that are more affluent and have a higher ability to pay to then declare a benchmark and then say, benchmark has been settled. Everybody else pay this benchmark. Well, the problem is again, just like with the residents in this affordability issue, there are people with more means and people with less means. And the people with the Mahiai, in general, I'm going to say, and again, I feel really uncomfortable doing this because it's this divisiveness, but, you know, some of them are directors of nonprofits. Others are a lawyer. One was running a nursery, which is not supposed to do. One has a commercial contracting business. And these people aren't actually farming. They're not dependent. This is the key thing. They're not dependent on the income from the land that they're farming. So they're going to pay an entirely different range of lease rents than the people behind me. So I just ask you to consider that, you know, it's a tough job for you guys. I understand. It'd be nice to just, here's the problem. But this community, you know, that just doesn't work for everybody. So it'll work for some, which is great. And we're happy that the Mahiai, seriously, everybody in this room, I think I can speak for, is happy that the Mahiai have a deal for the next 15 years that they feel comfortable about and can afford. We are very pleased about that. We're just saying that there are others that because of the acreage of non-usable land, et cetera, because they depend on this land, it doesn't work for them. And we'd ask for you to consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We have one more agenda item.
Didn't.
We're gonna
Okay, this is enough.
We're going straight into exec session.
Sorry?
We're going straight into exec session.
Yeah, I think that's what Dean wanted to do.
This is
For a little while longer, but I don't think it'll take too long.
Stick around. Should I leave the room or should I stay? Okay.
Chair, is this, hello?
Yes, hi, Leilani?
Hi, I would like to just provide a testimony on this agenda item, if I may.
Yeah, so let me, read it, and then I can take testimony on this item. So thank you for
Thank you.
chiming in there. Okay. Okay, we're on, item 3G, update on the possible acquisition of the Hagai International Mid-Pacific Center, formerly known as the Maui Sun Hotel, located at 175 East Lipoa Street, Kihei, Maui, TMK number 23-9-002-084. No motion, but I would like to invite anyone want to give testimony, Ronnie.
Thank you very much, Chair and members. My name is Leilani Pomano with Pacific Rim Land. And I just wanted to give a quick update. So I want to just let you all know that the seller is not willing to reduce their sales price to the amount that the board approved at last month's meeting.
Okay, I guess we're gonna talk about that, in executive session, or we're gonna have to go through the executive session. Thank you, Leilani. We're gonna have to go to executive session. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd like to, ask for a motion to go into executive session to talk about the impossible acquisition of Hagai.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. So, okay, so, we need to, I guess, identify who's here. And then what we'll also do is take up the approval of the, executive session meeting minutes for November 9th.
Leilani,
Hi.
can I just ask you to clarify the statement that you made regarding seller not being willing to accept the reduced price? Because there was a concept floated that that they may be willing to accept the reduced price as long as another piece comes together, which is that they would get paid for the use of the property since August. That
So we've been trying to work out a way how we can fill that gap. And one of those concepts was trying to see if they could get reimbursed by Red Cross. But that hasn't come to fruition, unfortunately. We also went to a nonprofit to see if they could also fill that gap. And that also didn't come to fruition. So we've been trying on our part to see how we could certainly get to that, their sales price. But at this point, we have not found a resolution for that.
okay, thank you.
A question, Mary?
Leilani, of the unpaid use costs since August 8th or 9th, how much of that could be directly attributed to FEMA personnel staying there?
Most of the people that actually stayed was Red Cross and Samaritan's Purse. That's the nonprofit that's helping the survivors sift through their property. So the bulk of that has not been FEMA employees. In fact, I don't know if any FEMA employees have been housed there, to be honest. Let me just check one thing.
Primarily National Guard, Red Cross, and Southern Baptist. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
And do you happen to be aware if any of those groups are seeking FEMA reimbursement of what they owe the son, our son?
I think the county is trying their hardest to see if they could get some reimbursement money from National Guard and, oh, I can't remember what other group, perhaps it's Southern Baptist.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so this time we should go on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Chair, Director.
Report.
Thank you, Leilani. I will just keep my report very brief since it's before you. For the fire relief housing program, although we're still running that. In the program, we have placed over 600 families into rental homes. At this point, though, we are looking at consolidating our program with other similar programs or other groups who have set up other, rental listing programs for the survivors. And for efficiency of effort among all the various parties, we're looking at consolidating ours with others, which will make it easier for the survivors to just find a home rather than go through various sites that offer the same service, basically. We also are working with the County of Maui to provide housing solutions. We potentially may assist with an interim housing project, but before we bring this to the board, we feel it's very important that there be some community outreach first. We don't want to bring it here before the residents of West Maui know about the project first. So we are working with the county on the messaging to the community. Last, I also want to say that I think it's a great opportunity for us to partner with UH and HCD on their leasehold project. You know, this could be a means to provide lower cost for sale housing for many residents. So we really want to find a way to make this work. I do want to temper expectations though, because with the interest rate environment that we're in, that makes it very challenging for developers because they have to meet our affordability guidelines. But at the same time, their costs are going up. Materials costs are going up and interest rates also increases their financing costs. So it might just be the timing might not be right at the moment. But I think long-term, we can make it work. But we will issue the RFP and we'll see. We'll try to see what the interest is by developers. And that's all I have to report.
That shared with me in the hallway, it's in the very early stages. Thank you. So there is no further business on today's agenda. And with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Hello.
We have a motion. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.